Imagine going outside in the night and looking up at the sky in your house, by your house in the city. And if you do this, you might see maybe a couple dozen stars spread out throughout the nighttime sky. Um, but there's actually many, many more stars out there than just the couple dozen you can see inside of the city. The reason for this is we have a lot of what's called light pollution in the nighttime sky. And that comes from all of the lights that we as humans need to see at night, because humans, we're not very great at seeing at night. So we need street lights and parking lot lights and lights in our houses, and we have headlights on our cars, and all of these lights, they shine down where we need them to see where we're going, but they also shine up into the sky and they wash out the starlight. So we don't see the stars like we used to. As a matter of fact, it's only been about the last 100 years or so where electric lights have been mainstream, where we've actually been not seeing the stars in their entirety at night. So I want to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what this might look like. So imagine going away from all the city lights, as far away from any city lights as possible. And this is a little bit about what you would see. Hopefully now you can see a lot more stars, more than just a couple dozen. You can see a couple thousand of stars. So you can see on any given night about 2,000 to 3,000 stars out there in the nighttime sky. And this is what all of our ancestors saw. No matter who your ancestors are and where they came from on planet Earth, they saw the nighttime sky with thousands of stars at night. And when we do this, our imagination starts to go crazy and we start to pick out patterns up there in the nighttime sky. These patterns are often called constellations, and these constellations can vary from culture to culture. But one of the cool things is that every culture out there has made up stories about the sky, looked up and seen patterns and made up stories about what is up there in the nighttime sky. So you may recognize some of these pictures or patterns that I've put up here in the sky. I want to bring your attention to one that I think is particularly easy to see in the sky. And this one we call the constellation Orion. And I say we, meaning this is the official designation of this constellation. It's called Orion. And it's deemed official by the International Astronomical Union. Now, this is a international governing body that kind of gets us all on the same page so that we're calling all the same things sort of the same. Like so this region of the sky is what we call Orion. And Orion is a mighty hunter up there in the sky. Now, this comes from Western culture. It's not does not represent all of the cultures all around the world. And when they looked at this pattern of stars in the sky, what they actually thought that they were, but it does represent one culture. Now, what's interesting though is that this pattern of stars is really easy to pick out in the sky, and there are lots of other civilizations out there that saw this same pattern of stars and called it something else. So imagine here, this is right, so this is what Orion looks like. And this over here is what the Chinese saw. So notice that some of those lines are actually completely overlapping. And I'm actually going to take away the Orion stick figure line so you can just see the difference here. Pretty close, right? So instead of a mighty hunter, they see this great cat monster here, up here in the nighttime sky. And they've got a lot of other objects up here that go along with this. And we can see here that they even have a little toilet and some excrement, which I think is kind of funny. All right, but different civilizations saw different things up here in the nighttime sky. So this actually looked like a turtle. This same Orion picture looked like a turtle in Thailand. That's what they called it. And the important thing about all of these pictures that people are drawing up there in the sky is they all have a story to go along with them. The nighttime sky was sort of the canvas to paint and describe stories to go along with what was going up there in the nighttime sky. And this was really important because for most of human history, stories and oral traditions is how people learned about their history and their culture. But it was all these stories were also used to tell lessons, and these pictures were used to help navigate the sky as well. So not just here's a little bit of our history or some moral lessons that we're trying to teach and get you to remember every night when you go out and see these patterns in the sky. But they also helped, say, Polynesian wayfinders navigate across the Pacific Ocean to find islands that were thousands of miles apart. So the stars are part of every culture out there. And no matter where your ancestors are from, they all looked up in the sky and they picked out patterns and made up stories about them. And that's pretty cool. It's kind of unique. It's something that everybody all across the world has got in common, looking up in the skies and looking at the stars and the patterns that they make.